bro, for taking time out your schedule to come on here for this interview tonight.
Yes, sir.
All right, so for the people, for my followers that, may not know who you are, you could just give a brief introduction before, we dive into these questions and, get your story being told tonight.
Sure. So, my name is Mike Jones. I'm the head coach at DeMatha Catholic High School. Also the head coach of our U16 junior national team for the United States. And I've been the head coach at DeMatha for the past 19 seasons. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of who I am. I'm a DeMatha grad. Played on our last undefeated team at DeMatha. Graduated in 1991. Played at Old Dominion University upon my graduation, and played a little bit of professionally afterwards before I came back and joined Coach Morgan Wooten's staff for 4 years, and then became the head coach in the fall of 2003.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it all the way back. We're gonna get the whole journey for you. So how was life for you growing up?
It was okay. I mean, my parents did I think, a great job raising me. Nothing was ever given to me. We weren't rich by any means, but my parents made sure that myself, my older brother, my younger sister had everything we needed, and grew up playing Kettering Largo Boys and Girls Club. My first coach, Coach Ryan, back in the intramural days of Kettering Largo Boys and Girls Club, and grew up around some other guys that we really competed against each other and made each other better. And, did well enough in school to be able to get into DeMatha when it came time to go to high school. And that's when the world really opened up for me, and I got to see, possibilities. And I really embraced the DeMatha culture. Really was something that, has helped mold me into the person I am today.
Okay, that's what's up. So at what age did you begin playing basketball?
Shoot, I can't remember. Actually, you know what? I can't. My dad put a hoop in front of our house. We first moved from the first house I ever lived in. We moved from an apartment to a house, and I believe that was my second grade. So he put a hoop in front of the house for me then. Neighbors complained at some point in time, so we wound up moving it to the backyard. So I'd say about second grade. So what is that, like 6 years old, 7 years old?
Yeah, that's about 6, 7 years old.
And
So
my whole thing growing up was I just wanted to be better than my brother. Like, I wanted to beat my big brother. And setting that benchmark for me wound up being why I became a pretty good basketball player, because it was all about I wanted to beat him. And I thank him for that.
So growing up, the first time when you beat him one-on-one, what was his reaction? Because I know he was like, hold on, my little bro beat me.
So I don't know if he would admit this, but he didn't play anymore. Like, he literally stopped. Like, I remember it was in the back of Largo High School, where we used to have some pretty epic pickup games back then. It was him and a couple of his friends, so I was always playing with older guys. But I remember, like, I won. And I do not recall my brother playing with us anymore. Like, I think that was it.
You put him out of the game. That's crazy.
So he had plenty of other things that he's very good at. So it's not like he needed hoops, but yeah, like, I mean, again, he was the benchmark for me. I looked up to my brother in so many ways, but on the basketball court was definitely.
Okay, I got you. So outside of basketball growing up, did you have any other passions?
Not really. Like, yeah, that was it. I mean, I did my schoolwork so I could play, made sure I kept my grades up. But, I played football 1 year for Kettering, the Boys and Girls Club, but that wasn't my thing. Like, I wanted to be a hooper. Like, the one thing that I know I did growing up that a lot of others didn't, I really read up. Like, this is before the internet. So, like, any Street and Smith magazine, Atholton Sports, whatever, I knew about every great player across the country, especially those that were my age. I was a basketball junkie. Like, I would read anything. One of my dad's good friends, they bred Japanese Akitas together. She had boxes and boxes and boxes of all the Sports Illustrateds ever made, and she gave them to me. And, like, literally, I would, like, if I was bored, I would just go sit and read sit and read Sports Illustrated just so I could find all the basketball articles in it.
Okay. So when did you finally realize that you were like, coming into yourself where you could see yourself actually playing at like a high level D1 and potentially overseas?
So it happened twice. The first time I was wrong. um,
Yeah.
so I thought I was pretty good, to be honest with you. I thought I was pretty good growing up. Played on a couple of AAU national championship teams with the Allentown Go-Getters. Like, North, like Lester Butler was our coach. Lester Butler was a Prince George's County girls coach. But his son Jay, very good point guard, played at Archbishop Carroll, was growing up. So he started an AAU team because he wanted to coach his son. And we just happened to be the fortunate guys to be able to play on that team. And we won 12 and under national championship in Seattle. 13 and under we didn't win, but the other DMV team, the Kingman Pythons, won up in Syracuse. And then at 14, we won in Orlando national championship. And then 15, we won in Tennessee the national championship. And I believe we would have won 16 and 17 too, but we didn't go because people kept, we had to raise every time we did. And we had hit the same people up for 4 or 5 straight years. So we just didn't have the money to continue to compete. But going into high school, I thought I was pretty good. When I got to DeMatha, I realized I was not. And I had to basically learn to play all over again. So Coach Wooten, being the great coach he was, and his staff, they really molded me into the player I've become. And then, got to college, I had to do that all over again too. So, it wasn't an easy stretch for me. But I think, honestly, one of the reasons why I'm the coach I am today is because of all the things I went through as a player.
Okay. So you talk about, coming into DeMatha, you thinking you was good and things like that. Did you play varsity all 4 years, or did you have to start with the freshman, JV?
Yeah. No. That's back when I played at DeMatha, it was very, very, very rare for a freshman to play varsity basketball. So I'm pretty sure there was not, like Dwayne Simpkins played the majority of his freshman.
Yep.
But he didn't play full-time varsity until into the season. That just didn't happen. A lot different now. But no, I played freshman basketball, and I was the 16th man on the 16-man team. I was not, I didn't know how to play. I thought I was good, and then I got there and I realized, I probably need to be able to shoot with my left hand too, or make layups with my left hand, and I couldn't. But I worked hard, I played hard, and fortunately enough, I was able to make the team. And I played on the JV team as a sophomore. And then I was good enough to start as a junior. And then, again, my senior year, we went 30-0 and beat everybody we played.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about the AAU days. How was AAU back then compared to now? Because my dad told me all the time it's different, but I want to hear from your standpoint.
Yeah, it's definitely it's not even close to being the same. We would go to a tournament and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, this is the biggest AAU tournament ever. It's 60 teams here." Nah. Now you got 60 teams. It seems like in a pool at an AAU. It's different. But back then it was cool because literally when you played, all of the best players from an area were on the same team. So I remember when we were 12 and under, we played the Charlotte Royals out in Seattle for the national championship. That was the best 12 players from that area. It wasn't, there's 5 different teams and the best 12 players are split up on 5 different teams. They were all on the best team. And it was good to see that. And it's a lot different now. And honestly, what has it done? It's given a lot more kids an opportunity to be able to showcase themselves, because I might not be the best kid today, but I might be the best kid 2 years from now. So, it's a better format now. But back then the bump was ridiculous. We played, I remember we played the Arkansas Wings when we were 14, and Corliss Williams dunked everything. And the thing was, we got to play them in the championship game, and he had just terrorized the whole tournament. And our thing was, we're not going to let him dunk. I don't care what happens. If he looks like he's getting ready to dunk, we're going to grab him. And we did that the whole game. And we wound up
a hack and shot.
Oh, it was worse. Like literally, like at least they fouled Shaq when he got it around the basket. Like if Corliss Williamson got the ball on the wing and he was getting ready to take 2 dribbles and take off, we would just foul him on the wing. And it got all the way down. We were going to win. We were up 20 at the end of the game. And literally our point guard, Greg Williams, who went on to play at Florida, Corliss Williamson got the ball and came down the court, and Greg just kind of stood to the side and kind of like said, go ahead, because, championship, go ahead and do what you do. This is what the fans want to see. And Corliss went in and dunked the ball and then dapped him up at the end. But we dominated AAU basketball for 4 years when we were coming up.
Okay. So when it came to the recruiting process, did you get more looks on the AAU scene or from high school?
Well, I played at DeMatha. I mean, like I was going to get all the love possible from there. For me, my AAU team provided me an opportunity to show that I could. So I played in the post at DeMatha, and my AAU team allowed me to play on the perimeter. So whereas I was getting recruited by plenty of schools at DeMatha, like I was not going to be a post player in college. I'm 6'5". Like that just wasn't going to happen. So like I was one of the fortunate cases where both kind of merged together and really helped me out. Like I was on people's radar because of DeMatha, and then I got to show what I could really do away from the bucket on my AAU team. So, Morgan Wooten and Lester Butler both had a huge impact on me being able to go to Old Dominion and all the other offers that I was able to get.
Okay. So I see you went to Old Dominion. What were some other offers that you had when it came to like your final schools to choose from?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for me, like you talk about God working in your life, and at an age where I didn't look at it that way, but so my coach at Old Dominion, my head coach at Old Dominion was Oliver Purnell. So Oliver Purnell, I was his first recruit at Old Dominion. He was at Radford University before he came to Old Dominion. He recruited me to Radford. One of the assistant coaches at Old Dominion was Pete Strickland, a DeMatha guy. He was an assistant coach at VMI. I was being recruited by VMI. Tick Price was another assistant coach for me at Old Dominion. He was an assistant coach at Virginia Tech. I was being recruited by Virginia Tech. So literally when Coach Purnell got the job, he hired both Coach Strickland and Coach Price. And so to me, that was a clear indication. Like those were the three schools plus UNC Wilmington that I was really looking at. And like I just like this is a perfect scenario. So I'm gonna go to Old Dominion. And my first 2 years weren't easy, but I'm so thankful that that's the decision I made back then.
Okay, so now you're in college, and I see that you majored in. I did some research. I see you majored in human services and counseling.
Yes,
Did
sir.
you have an idea that you wanted to go into coaching or that type of field going into college, or was you just picking a major at the time?
Well, no. I took my academics seriously. Like
Okay.
I didn't basket weaving or recreation and leisure studies was the big thing back then. It seemed like every college basketball player took. I didn't want to do that. I took a real major that I had to work for. But I also was one of the guys that I thought I was going to play 15 years in the NBA. So, my degree was going to be great, but I wasn't going to need it for a while. And, come to find out I needed it a little bit more. At first I thought I was going to be a lawyer. So I definitely took criminal justice and things like that when I first got there. But I decided I wanted to be in the health professional field. So, whether I be a counselor, a social worker, whatever, that's why I chose human services and counseling. And again, I started out at DeMatha as a guidance counselor. So it was definitely something that helped me.
Okay. So you talked about your first 2 years at ODU. Describe that a little bit, because when I was looking at when I looked you up and everything, I see that the first 2 years were rough, but then your junior senior year, that's when you began to like take off.
Yeah, so again, Coach Purnell and the staff, they broke the unwritten rule that you don't try to take a high school post player and turn him into a perimeter player. And like that's literally what I was doing, even though I did get the opportunity to show that I could shoot and handle and things like that with my AU team. It was still an adjustment. And I probably thought I was capable of playing before I was allowed to play. But, again, I wasn't given anything. I had to grind for it. And, my first 2 years were tough. Like I remember my sophomore year, after my sophomore year, I looked at the stats and I literally played, I believe, 6 more minutes my sophomore year than I did my freshman year. And I barely played freshman year. And I was so frustrated, so frustrated. But I wasn't going to quit. That's just not who I was raised to be. And yeah, it wound up. I had a great last 2 years.
Okay. So you talk about, you know, you not wanting to quit. Did you ever think about transferring? Because I see nowadays the big thing is like the transfer portal. It's like, you know, people start off in a predicament that they thought they were going to be in, and it doesn't work out that way, and they want to be quick to transfer instead of like waiting it out and just,
Yeah,
you know, roughing it out.
not built that way. So I will acknowledge after my junior year, which would have been the dumbest thing in the world, I thought about transferring after my junior year, which makes no
Mm,
sense. After, like I played my junior year.
yeah.
After my sophomore year, no, it wasn't even a thought. It was like I'm going to work hard, and coach going to put me on the floor next season. But that's the same attitude I had after my freshman year too, and it didn't work out that way. So, um, yeah, it happened the way it was supposed to happen, and I know a lot of times kids just look at it like they want it and they want it now. It doesn't work that way. But I'm so glad I didn't quit. I'm so glad I didn't transfer because, again, it's a huge part of who I am today.
Okay. And going through those rough 2 years, who was in your corner to tell you like, hey, just you know, rough it out? I mean, like just stick through it. Everything is gonna work out. Everything is gonna work out. Because I feel like a lot of these days, a lot of players like they might not have that person in their life to like tell them that, and that's why we see all these players moving from school to school year by year. So who was that person in your life to
But to be
keep you
honest,
motivated?
like I mean, I had both parents in my life. My godfather was also very instrumental in pretty much everything I've done since I can remember, even till today. Till today, but nobody. Like I didn't.
Mm,
Leaving was not ever a thought in my mind. So I didn't need anybody to tell me like that's not the move. Like it was never like that was never an option to me uh, after my first 2 years in college. So I know that had I said something that mom, dad, they would have been supportive. My godfather would have been there to talk some sense into me. But honestly, I never thought about it because I knew I was good enough. I just had to get the chance to show it. And, I had already invested 2 years into it. So I wasn't willing to give up those 2 years to start fresh somewhere else. Like I wanted what I thought I had already earned at ODU.
okay, okay. And I see you after graduating. They said you had like a stint with the Pacers, and then you went over to play overseas. Talk about that a little bit after you
Yeah.
graduate from ODU.
Again, I thought I was going to play 15 years in the league. So um, timing is everything. So the first year after college, there was a lockout.
Mm,
So things weren't smooth that summer. I wound up playing on a summer league team in the LA Summer League, which was the thing back then. Like you got the NBA teams that put their teams and stuff now. Back then it was the LA Summer League. Um, but because of the lockout, teams couldn't put their own teams together. I played very well in the LA Summer League, and the Pacers had already reached out to me before the lockout to tell me they wanted me to come to their free agent camp, not veterans camp, but free agent camp. So I kind of knew like I just needed to play well enough to not screw that up. And then when the lockout ended, I got an invite to Pacers camp, and first time I'd ever been asked to play point guard, but I did, and I played well enough that they invited me to vet camp. So like I had to sign a contract, and again, I'm gonna make this team. I didn't. I got cut. I actually went up to Connecticut to play with the Connecticut Pride in the CBA for like 2 days, and got an offer to play in Finland for way more money than I was going to make playing in the CBA. So I took it and was miserable over there, but I made it through a season as a point guard, and I really, refined my game.
Okay, so how many years did you end up playing professional or after
Four,
graduating? Four?
four. Yeah, I had a rough ankle injury in my third season, aggravated it a little bit in my fourth season, and the opportunity at DeMatha had come to me 2 years in a row, but the second time, I pretty much knew that, my ankle wasn't going to be good enough to play. Like, if I had that same ankle now, I'd still be playing. Like, it'd be no problem, but it just wasn't like that. Like, the whole high ankle sprain guys missed, 3-4 weeks back then. Like, it was rough to come back from. So, and I never really got back right.
Okay. So having that injury occur and in your mind, you still want to, play ball, still be active. How was that transition over to life after basketball for you? Because I know it's a hard transition because, you do something that you love your whole life, then it's like it's gone.
Well, so my last job playing as a professional was in Hong Kong. And I remember I rehabbed like crazy because I really wanted to go to Hong Kong. Good money, short season actually it's the Super Cup. So literally I'm just going over there to play in a tournament. But I'm gonna make good money for the 3 weeks that I'm there. So hey, let's go. And I remember in the semifinal game of that tournament, we made it to the championship. We lost, but I remember the semifinal game in crunch time of the game. A play, and it really confirmed for me, like, yo, this is it. I stole the ball, and I went down, and I wasn't like the freak athlete that some of these guys are now, but I mean, I was a decent athlete. I could get up, and I went to take off of that ankle, and there was nothing there. And I wound up going up, and the guy chasing me down, like, at least I was aware enough to know that he was there, and I dropped it off to a teammate, and he went up and dunked it, and we wound up winning the game to make it to the championship. But like, literally, I knew right then, like, I that's something that I have to have to be the best player I can be, and I don't have it anymore. So making that decision to move on, and again, the next best thing to playing is coaching. So I kind of knew that was pretty much inevitable at that point.
Okay. So now you finish playing, you come over to DeMatha. You say you were a guidance counselor,
Yes.
and were you on the so you were working on the basketball team as well as like an assistant coach at the time as well?
Yeah, I was
Okay,
actually
okay.
I was assistant freshman team coach back in 1998, 99.
Okay. So having Coach Morgan Wooten on your side, what are some things that he has instilled in you? Rest in peace to him. He was a great man, great coach. What are some things that he instilled in you in order to, prepare you for that transition into being a head coach at DeMatha?
He was the ultimate competitor, but always did it with class. Like, you never got under his skin. Like, I remember, like, I never heard Coach Wooten curse. Like, never heard him say a word of profanity. The referees, like, you could never get him worked up. Bad call, bad play, whatever. Like, he talked to you now, but he was always under control. And like, that's just something I think all of us as coaches should strive to be. It's very difficult, but just always being under control, always having poise. And the one thing that I think I have taken upon from him is his teams epitomized his character and his persona and his temperament. And like, he never lost control, so they never lost control. And that's one of the things I've tried to pride myself on being. Like, if my teams don't see me panic, then they're not going to panic. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
Okay. So becoming a head coach, you became head coach in 2003, I believe, right?
2002, 2003 was the first season, yes.
Okay. How was it transitioning, into becoming a head coach and having that pressure that, Morgan Wooten was a great coach, winning record, things like that? Did you feel that it was pressure on you to win like as soon as possible, or?
So one thing about us at DeMatha, we don't use that word pressure.
Okay.
Like, it is when we sign up at DeMatha, the coach, when we sign up, when a player signs up to come to DeMatha, that is the expectation. So it's not pressure. Like, you knew it was going to be like this. We know when we step on the court, we're going to get everybody's best shot. So we don't use the P word. It's just,
Okay.
I call it emotional anxiety. Uh, it's literally, it's what you signed up for. Like I would not have pursued the DeMatha head coaching job if I didn't think I had the opportunity to be successful doing it. So it's just part of what comes with the territory. And again, I think our kids over the years, Coach Wooden's years and mine, have epitomized that. Like it's not pressure. It's just, hey, we're gonna go out here and do what we were prepared to do. Live by the statement. Uh, when the pressure hits, you do not rise to the occasion. You sink to the level of your training. So we're gonna prepare for those toughest moments. Like the best doesn't come out of you when times get tough. You are who you are, and fortunately enough for us, a lot of times other guys drop down because their training is a little bit different. So, and that's kind of how we look at it.
Okay. How was it as a coach winning your first WCAC title?
Well, it was. I cried. I know that much. I remember very vividly at Gallaudet, sat on the bench while the team was celebrating, and shed a tear because you got to remember when I first got the job, we started 8-0, but we finished 15-17. And my first year I was the interim coach, so a lot of people did not think that myself or my staff should continue on. But the administration at DeMatha definitely stood by my side, and that means the world to me. And they gave us an opportunity. Our second year, we were 19-11, and our third year, we were 29-2, and won that championship. And we won 2 more right after that, and we won 6 out of 7, and we were well on our way. And then we went through a little drought, which I always laugh at when people use the word drought. And then we won in 2018 and won in 2020. And I would love to have seen what would have happened this year. We would have had great teams in our league, but I would have put DeMatha's chances as good as anybody else's in this season. So
Okay. So being that consistent and winning championship after championship after championship, how do you stay or how do you keep yourself motivated and not become complacent? Because oftentimes as we see, people keep winning, they're like, oh, well, I don't really got nothing else to prove. So how
not
do
in,
you stay motivated?
not in our league, man. Like, first of all, high school athletics are so great because like you don't coach the same team every year. Like you're always
Yeah,
going to have players. So, and everybody else is going to have new players as well. So it's like, nah, complacency is not a word that like who's going to get complacent. I don't know how many championships you're going
especially in the WCAC.
to be a challenge. Like it's going to be a challenge. And, yeah, I don't think you can get complacent. Like I'm a competitor. I want to win every time I step on the floor. And if we win every single game, if we win 30 games in a row, that 31st game, I'm just going to be just as locked in as I was in game number 1. Like our league does not afford the opportunity for you to be unfocused. Like that just doesn't happen. You got Steve Turner, you got Glenn Fabrillo, you got Joe Wooten, you got Patrick Bean, you got G.J. Kissel, Marty Keith. Our league is full of like just ridiculously good coaches that have great talent. Like, nah, there's no complacency.
Okay. So going back to like the players and stuff at DeMatha, for those players that come in like their freshman year and they think that I'm the next star, and in some cases some are, but in some cases it doesn't always go like that. So how do you handle those parents that come at you like, Coach, why isn't my son playing varsity and this and that? Because I know you probably get it a lot. So how do you handle those situations when they occur?
Well, I think the first thing is we don't promise them anything. Like if I'm recruiting you, I'm not telling you, hey, you're gonna play varsity as a freshman. I'm not telling you that. I'm going to tell you that first of all, I'm recruiting you because I think you're good, but you will have to earn everything you get. Now, again, I'm not talking to you if you're not good enough to be able to achieve all of these things you have in your head, but like I'm not promising you a thing. And I'll go back to I use Austin Freeman, who played for me at DeMatha, graduated 07, one of the best players I've ever coached. went on to Georgetown. He's actually on our staff now. I use him as an example all the time. Like, I mean, he was a kid that I pretty much knew if I didn't screw it up, he was going to be an All-American. And I never once promised his parents that he was going to do this or that, never promised him that, and they never asked. And what I tell all the good players that we get now that come in, I'm just like, look, like, that's the example of what it's supposed to be like. Like, he knew he had to work. His parents never said, hey, we need you to guarantee this in order for us to come here. They were just like, hey, you got to work. And in his 4 years at DeMatha, they never once came to ask to meet with me. They never wanted to ask about playing time or anything like that. Now, some people say, well, it's easy because, Austin Freeman was good. Well, I challenge you to find any parent in my program over the 19 years I've been the head coach that would be able to say anything like that. Like, you got to put the work in. You've got to work. And so those things don't happen because we don't set ourselves up for that. Those that are worried about the playing time, like, I would question whether or not you need to be with us because you're going to have to work. The biggest thing for me is this. For players today, and fortunately enough, I get to talk to college coaches all the time. I get to talk to NBA
Yep.
person. And the biggest thing is guys from our area, like an entire area, not just WCAC, but all the leagues in our area. Like, they have something that a lot of other areas don't have. But let's just take those guys and who are the guys that do well? It's the guys that when they get to college, they are used to playing with 4 other good players on the floor. And that is the most important thing. I swear to it. It is the most important thing. Guys now that are able to take every shot and dominate the ball so much, when they get to college, you've got 4 other really good players on the team. You can't do that anymore. And
Absolutely.
I tell my guys this story all the time. I remember this during the pandemic doing Zoom calls and things like that. So I'm on a Zoom with one of the assistant coaches for the Dallas Mavericks and one of the assistant coaches, one of my really good friends, Miles Simon, with the LA Lakers. And both of them literally say 90% of the time on the Mavericks, Luka Doncic is going to have the ball in his hands. So if we're looking for somebody to play on our team, they have to understand that Luka is going to have the ball. So if you need the ball in your hands all the time to be effective, why would we want you on our team? The same thing. Miles Simon said, hey, same thing with LeBron. Like, who's going to take the ball out of LeBron's hands? So if you want the LA Lakers right now, you need to be able to do more than just stuff with the ball in your hands. And that's what we preach to our guys all the time. You have to be able to play without the ball. You have to be able to play with 4 other good players on the floor with you. And I do believe that that's one of the reasons why our guys, when they get to college, they're on the floor pretty much as soon as they get there because they're used to playing with 4 other really good players.
Okay. I can definitely agree with that. From what I've been seeing throughout the years, I can definitely agree with that. So here's a good question for you. Who are some players, or who is that player that, you might have had playing freshman, JV, and then they came to varsity and they woke you up and you like, man, I should have had this dude playing varsity like a long time ago.
I mean, everybody's going to say Markelle Fultz. I mean, that's, we cut him. We cut him, and I've used quotations for that because we didn't cut him. We had him play on JV, and there was a plan for him. And fortunately enough for us, Markelle and his family, like, he didn't leave. And a lot of other instances, the player would have left. And you can call it one of 2 things. First of all, he was destined to be good. Like, God has blessed him and his work ethic with his blessing. You were not going to stop that kid. But I also believe that there was a touch of, I'm going to prove Coach wrong. I'm going to prove that, Coach, you should not have cut me. You should have not have moved me down. And whatever fire that lit under him, to have him just take off was clearly, I mean, he went from JV to our best player as a junior. He went from JV to, I believe, the best player in the area as a junior and one of the best players in the country, like literally, 4 months later. And I'm proud of that. Like, cutting sometimes crushes guys. It did not crush him.
Okay, I could definitely agree with that. I went to middle school with Markel, so I've been able to see his growth since
There
he
you
was
go.
like 11 to 12. So yeah,
There you
I could definitely agree with that. So what are some life principles that you like to share with your players as far as life and not we're not even talking basketball, but what are some life principles?
Well, I mean, I think basketball is a great tool to teach life.
Yep.
And the biggest thing for me is resiliency. When things are not going your way, how do you respond? And you're going to have times on the basketball court that things like the referees not calling fouls for you, your teammates are looking you off, the coach keeps yanking you in and out of the game, like whatever it is. Like, how do you respond to that? And it's just like life. Like, hey, I'm up for a promotion that I think I'm very qualified for, but it went to somebody who I don't think is as qualified as me. My teacher, it seems like he or she is picking on me in class. Like, how do I respond to that? Like, it's really like that is to me, that's the foundation for who you are going to be because I don't care who you are. I don't care what you have exposure to. Life is never going to be just this easy path that you take. You're always going to have bumps in the road. And how you respond to those bumps is going to be critical to who you become as a person. If every time you come up against a roadblock, you just say, all right, I'm going to just go in another direction. So that's transferring, that's quitting, that's, well, I don't feel like doing it anymore because that's your defense mechanism. Or you the guy like, okay, I'm coming to this point and I can't get past this point. I got to figure this out. So I think resiliency is the biggest thing, the biggest thing. So
Okay. Um, so now we're gonna keep it with like outside of sports wise. What are some words of encouragement that you would give to players, athletes of any sport when it comes to finding their purpose and their identity outside of being an athlete? Because most times when we ask like an athlete, like, who are you? And they be like, I'm an athlete. And it's like, no, you're whatever your name is before you are an athlete. So what are some words of encouragement that you would like to give,
I would think the biggest thing that I would say to guys is finding your purpose, being faith filled. Like I do believe, like, and this is a Coach Wooten thing. Like, we have T-shirts made to say God, family, school, and then basketball, because those are supposed to be your priorities. Like God should be first and foremost in everything you do. Your family, like they're going to be your support system. Like, God put you in that family. Like God placed those people in your life, so they're there for a reason. You can't do anything without an education. I don't care how good of an athlete you are, how good of a musician you are, how good of a whatever. You cannot get to the level you need to get to if you do not take your academics seriously. So, and then, you know what? If you're blessed enough to be an athlete or a musician or whatever it is, then you can throw that in there. For me, it's basketball. So, but those should be your priorities as you go forward. And as you kind of go through life and you're trying to figure things out, like be around people that are what you want to be. Like, I used to tell people all the time what my uncles and my aunts and everybody told me growing up. Like, hey, you want a higher GPA? Hang out with 5 more people that have a higher GPA than you and watch what
you're
happens.
gonna become the sixth one.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's just the way it is. But it goes the other way too. Like if I've got a 3.0 and I hang out with 5 guys that have a 2.0, my GPA is going to drop. Like if you want to be rich, hang out with rich people. Like that's just the way it works. So you take it into sports. I'm the best player in my neighborhood. Well, I need to find different people to play with that are better than me, or I will only be the best in my neighborhood. And at some point in time, that's not going to be good enough. And then the last thing is, and I truly believe this, I don't like it when I hear people say, you can be whatever you want to be. Like I really don't. I don't believe in that at all. And I know a lot of times that's tough for people to hear. But
Yeah.
you know what? Some people aren't meant to be basketball players. Some people aren't meant to be football players. Like you're not. And to tell a kid, like, hey, if you work hard enough, you can be whatever. Like, don't discourage him from working hard, but don't make it seem like he works really hard to be a basketball player and he doesn't make it. Like that kid now feels like, you know what, I didn't do enough. or like, and he may have done everything he possibly could have. It just might not be what God's plan is for him. So I don't like telling kids that. I don't like telling kids, hey, you can be anything you want to be, because I don't believe that that is true. Everybody has a purpose, and it's up to us to find our purpose. And for some of us, it won't be what we want it to be. It'll be something else. I wanted to play in the NBA. I killed myself trying to be an NBA basketball player. I wasn't good enough. But I found a passion in coaching and helping other kids make it to the NBA. And every time one of them does, I feel like I made it. And that's you know what? God has made that good enough for me.
Yeah, that's a good one actually. I like you said, I've never heard someone say that before, but now that you put that into context, then it totally makes sense. So this gonna be the last question before we wrap up. What is something, if you could sit down with your younger self, what is something that you would tell your younger self?
I have enough time for that, man. Like, you know, my life has been very difficult. You know, I honestly, like, and I'll be very transparent with this. I would tell my younger self that there's certain things outside of the game of basketball, or there's certain things within the game of basketball that are going to affect your life outside of basketball, and to really pay attention to that. You know, your family life, when you're as driven as I am to be who I've been to DeMatha and to the players that I've coached, like, there have been some sacrifices, and family's one of them. And if I could go back, I definitely would change some things with that, like the sacrifices I've made. Some of them, unfortunately, are, you know, you can't undo stuff, like time you could have spent doing something, but you were so wrapped up into winning and things like that. So I would say that that would be one thing, to go back and tell my younger self, like, hey, that those priorities that I mentioned earlier, don't lose track of those. No matter how competitive you are, no matter how driven you are, no matter how career oriented that you want to be successful you are, that second priority can't take a back seat to other things.
Okay. Well, it's Friday night. It's 8:44. I appreciate your time,
My
for
man,
taking time out your schedule and everything to sit down. This was very good. Like, I've learned some things about you. I've heard about you and seen your teams throughout the years, but having this conversation, has gotten, me a chance to know more of, like, who you are as an individual besides, just as a coach. So I appreciate you for, taking your time out your schedule to sit down and do this conversation.
appreciate you, man. Anytime. You show love to a lot of our guys. Obviously, I think we got connected after the Joe Hampton interview you did, and Joe's one of, his platform right now is amazing, and he's using it in the right way. I could be proud of him. He stopped by DeMatha 2 days ago. Um, it's awesome to see, and you amongst all the people that he's had the ability to speak on their platforms, but your choice to showcase him a little bit, I will always look at as an opportunity that Joe really sees, and I think he sees the impact he can have on the youth of today. So I thank you, brother. Keep it up. Anything I can ever do for you, you count me in, because I think what you're doing is really good for the kids coming up and being able to see, like, just the whole name after the ball deflates, because it will deflate for everybody. And you've got to be ready to do something with the rest of your life.
I appreciate it, Coach. We'll be in contact, and I'll continue to show support throughout the years and everything like that. But appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right.